As it turns out, building a gaming PC without using Intel, AMD or Nvidia is possible. Previously, we used the Zhaoxin KaiXian KX for the CPU, alongside an ASUS OEM motherboard and a Moore Threads MTT S80 for the graphics card. But there is one problem with this gaming PC. It sucks. We get like 20 FPS in Forza at low settings with weird graphical glitches, and even games that have had Moore Threads optimizations like Black Myth Wukong still only get about 10 FPS at low 1080p. So in this video, we are going to see if we can improve the gaming performance while still not utilizing AMD, Intel or Nvidia. We'll start with some hardware and software optimizations, and then swap out one of the most important components. To begin, we'll upgrade our RAM. As we found out previously, only 3200MHz DDR4 RAM will work. It has to be the non-OC kind as well. So I've gone ahead and got another 16GB stick, making 32GB in total. But this means we'll have dual channel memory, effectively doubling our bandwidth, which hopefully should result in much better frames. So we'll start off by connecting those two sticks of RAM without the CPU cooler because it blocks access to one of the slots of RAM. Now we can reattach the CPU cooler again. But luckily this is super easy thanks to the Fantic S2 Pro and E2 Ultra electronic screwdrivers. The S2 Pro has an adjustable torque setting from 0.5Nm all the way up to 6Nm, and that's all controllable from the screwdriver dial. This makes it great for electronics, like building PCs, all the way up to heavy-duty furniture. The kit contains everything you need, including a case with 20 of the most common bits, an extension rod which helps out greatly when working in tight areas like between the CPU cooler and the motherboard, and we also even have a 90-degree adapter for places that you can't even reach normally. The battery life has so far been really good and rarely needs charging with a 2000 mAh battery, and of course we have a Type-C connector for fast charging. It's very simple and easy to use. You just turn this part to change the torque setting, to make sure you don't over tighten your screws on the PC. And then with the intuitive light bar, it will show what setting you are on and when the screwdriver is spinning. If you're going to be working on smaller electronics, then the E2 Ultra Precision screwdriver is perfect with 50 bits. You can see that it has a wide range of precision bits and tools included, which is really useful when working with electronics, as some manufacturers like using niche screws like Torx and Tri-Wing, which can really be frustrating when you don't have the correct bit. The E2 Ultra also features an adjustable torque setting of up to 0.6Nm and a battery of 800 mAh, which in my experience lasts a long time, especially on a screwdriver this small. There is also a light bar to show the torque setting and when the screwdriver is spinning, in addition to a light at the top so we can see in dark or tight spaces. Fantic offers high quality, modern design, automotive tools, and outdoor products with over 40 plus product design awards. Make sure to check out the description to use the links and promo codes available, which will save you money on your purchase. Or you can also see Fantic products in Amazon, Costco, Home Depot, Best Buy, and many other stores. After we've put on our thermal piston CPU cooler, we can go ahead and boot up the PC once again. And it doesn't even boot up. Somehow I've managed to mess up probably the easiest part. Okay, so I've taken out one stick of RAM now and it does boot up, but why does it say 1 out of 1 slots used? Does it always say this? Whatever. We'll just connect the other stick and see what happens. Okay, so I've now got the other stick connected and it all seems to be good. I guess probably the RAM wasn't seated properly beforehand. In Task Manager, we can see it correctly shows 32GB of 3200 megatransfers per second RAM, and also it says 2 out of 2 slots used. Now we can run some benchmarks and see if we have any performance boost. In Geekbench, we get a single core score of 766 and a multi-core score of 3562, which means our score has gone up very slightly in the multi-core score part. I mean, let's be honest though, it's probably not really a noticeable difference, since we got 789 for the single core score and 3344 for the multi-core score before, with 16GB of RAM in single channel. Cinebench R23 has somehow gone down to 4012 for the multi-core score and 558 in the single core, and in 3D Mark it's more or less the same as before at 3690 for the graphics, 3505 for the CPU, and 3661 for the total score. For the gaming side, Forza Horizon 5 gets an average of 22.9 FPS at low 1080p, exactly the same settings as before. This actually turns out to be a decrease of a couple of frames, although the 1% and 0.1% lows did seem to be slightly better at 16.7 and 14.3 FPS respectively. Cyberpunk performed pretty much the same as before at 22 FPS, but also had some graphical glitches. Having said that, however, the game did feel slightly smoother with 1% low of 16.9 and a 0.1% low of 9.8 FPS. GTA 5 was one of the best results here at 35.4 FPS on average. The stuttering was still quite bad, however, with the 1% low at 3.5 and the 0.1% low at 2.4 FPS, but it was still a lot smoother than previously. CS2 was still terrible, like maybe even worse than before. I couldn't even move and the FPS counter said 0 most of the time. Black Myth Wukong achieved 11.9 FPS, which is slightly lower than before, so yeah, that's really not that great. While our RAM upgrade clearly did not make our no Intel, AMD or Nvidia gaming PC any better, but you might be surprised to know that the Zhaoxin KaiXian KX 7000 CPU actually has integrated graphics. So I'm going to see if we can try and use some of the CPU's graphics power to improve our gameplay with frame generation. We'll run our games on the GPU and the frame generation on the integrated graphics using lossless scaling. First, I got to try to figure out how to get both GPUs to display in Device Manager. Looks like I'll probably have to disconnect the GPU first, and that allows me to install the integrated graphics drivers, which are turned off by default and need to be enabled in the BIOS. Out of curiosity, I ran 3D Mark using the integrated graphics, and whoa, we're getting like 1 FPS. Our final score is 61. Yes, 61, with a graphics score of 53. Oh my god. You know, I'm starting to think that running frame generation, let alone anything on this iGPU, might be a bad decision. But anyway, all that's left to do now is to reconnect our Moore Threads MTT S80 GPU, and boot up the PC with a display cable attached to the motherboard. Now we can see we have both our GPUs in Device Manager. We can also now see the option in lossless scaling labeled ZXC1190, and that's our iGPU. I'm first going to try out GTA 5, where we got 35.4 FPS at normal settings 1080p. We're going to turn on LSFG 3.1 at the 2x multiplier with 100 flow scale, and wait, has it even turned on yet? Oh, there we go, it's finally turned on and it's like decreasing our FPS to like 10 or something. So somehow I've made it even worse. Like, I'm trying to make this PC better, but somehow it just keeps getting worse. Even at 25 flow scale, there's no saving this. The game looks awful. I also tried Forza for some reason, but I think we all know the outcome of this. Our base FPS surprisingly doesn't decrease. But looking at the game, it's like it's underwater with all the warping, and our FPS is not even being increased. In fact, I'm not even sure what FPS it's showing in the top left. Like, what does this mean? Cyberpunk is the same story as Forza. Similar base FPS, but no generated frames, and lots of warping. At this point, something has to change, otherwise we'll never actually get a good gaming experience from the no Intel, AMD, or Nvidia PC. And I'm thinking the Moore Threads MTT S80 has to go. I know from previous videos that the Moore Threads MTT S80 is pretty bad, even when paired with a great AMD or Intel CPU. So it's definitely one of the bottlenecks in our PC. Only problem is, there isn't a whole lot of options that can replace it, because most are going to be from AMD, Intel or Nvidia. Luckily for us, however, fairly recently, a new Chinese GPU was released, the Lisuan LX7G100, and apparently it performs slightly worse than an RTX 3060, and that sounds pretty good to me. If you don't know Lisuan Tech, well, neither do I. But the company was apparently founded in 2021 by 3 former S3 Graphics employees. Interestingly enough, VIA Technologies also had a stake in S3 Graphics at one point. Like, it's kind of weird how all these Chinese companies seem to be linked to other companies. Like, we have Zhaoxin from VIA Technologies and Cyrix, Lisuan from S3 Graphics and also VIA Technologies, and then of course we also have Moore Threads, which the founder was from Nvidia's Chinese branch. I mean, despite all this though, it's still pretty cool that they managed to build a fully functional gaming GPU, considering the company was only founded in 2021. And even better yet, they actually have Microsoft WHQL certification. So they joined the likes of AMD, Intel and Nvidia. So hopefully the drivers on this won't be bad like they are on the MTT S80. In case you're wondering, the GPU will set you back 3,299 RMB, or about $500 US. That is if you can actually get one though. The initial batch of Founders Edition cards only had 1,000 available, and to be honest, it's not even clear actually how many there are, as there may have been a second batch, and some articles report that there were 30,000 orders, but those were pre-orders, so I'm assuming not everyone actually got one. However, they are due to release the standard non-Founders Edition though, and it's cheaper as well, so if you only want to waste $400 on this GPU, your chance will come soon. As you can see, we have the Founders Edition card here, so I believe the number of these cards is limited to 1,000, and as you can see, we have number 860. Opening the Lisuan LX7G100 feels like I'm opening a collector's item. It feels very premium and the box opens in this flap kind of style. It probably would have been the best GPU unboxing I've ever had, if it wasn't for the fact that the foam they used to package this literally smells like piss. In the box we get this pouch with a metal card inside, and it has some serious weight to it. Basically it just has our GPU number, the founder's signature, and a picture of the GPU on the back. We then have the graphics card, followed by an instruction booklet, and a DisplayPort to HDMI adapter, which will become apparent as to why that's there a little bit later on. The graphics card itself is actually very well designed. It's made from metal all the way around and has 2 hidden fans under these fins, which is a pretty cool design, and that should help a lot with airflow. Of course, we also have this third fully visible fan. On the side we have the light up logo with the Lisuan Tech text, and one of those 12V 2x6 cable connectors, which means I need to change my power supply. On the back we have the graphics card number, some text, a hole for airflow, and also the founder's signature. I believe it's Xuan Yifang's signature. For I/O on this graphics card we have 4 DisplayPort 1.4s and nothing else. And now you can see why there's an HDMI adapter. There's no official reason for this, but I've heard that you need to pay a licensing fee for HDMI, so I guess this could be a one way around it. I mean, why else would they not have an HDMI port and then include an adapter in the box? The Lisuan LX7G100 has a 6nm 7G106 GPU inside, with 12GB of GDDR6 memory. It supports PCIe 4.0 x16, and it also supports all the modern APIs like DirectX 12, which Moore Threads actually didn't even support at release. The graphics card also has a TDP of about 225 watts, and that's powered from the 12V 2x6 connector. At this point we can now swap our GPU. We're going to take out the old MTT S80 once again, but we also need to swap our power supply due to the new GPU's power connector. Originally I was going to use this SFX PSU, but the cables are way too short, so I guess this Corsair RM1000X will have to do. I mean, it's way overkill for this PC, but it has all the connectors we need. So let's get that PSU connected up, and also we're going to connect up our brand new Lisuan LX7G100. And here's the finished product. I think the new PSU cables and the GPU make it look a lot neater, especially since we don't have that CPU 8-pin power adapter for the graphics card. Will our PC boot up? Yes it will, straight into Windows. Installing the graphics driver was super simple and the software is also in English. Task Manager correctly shows our GPU as the Lisuan 7G100, but GPU-Z doesn't display anything as of yet. I first ran 3D Mark Time Spy, and just by looking at the FPS, I could tell this was going to be quite good. The fans were running pretty high, but they weren't too loud, and we got a score of 6,565, with a graphics score of 7,572. When we compare that to the MTT S80, this is a really good score. I mean, the MTT S80 got a graphics score of less than half of that at 3,690. Don't get me wrong, it's still not great for the price of the graphics card, but you have to remember this is not AMD, Intel or Nvidia, and it's one of Lisuan's first ever graphics cards released. Next I tried Forza Horizon 5 at the exact same settings as before, and wow, we're getting 62.5 FPS on average. That's a lot better than the 22.9 FPS we got with the MTT S80. The 1% and 0.1% lows are pretty good as well at 35.2 and 7.4 FPS. Furthermore, there's no graphical glitches like we had before. This all means that we can even turn up the game to Ultra 1080p and we're still getting 41.5 FPS on average. Cyberpunk at low settings gave us 32.8 FPS, which isn't too bad compared to the 22 FPS we got before. But for some reason this isn't as high as it should be because we're only using about 50% of the GPU. I'm not really sure why, but if we turn up the settings to high we now get 34.7 FPS, but we're using more of the GPU at around 80%. Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on here. Red Dead Redemption 2 didn't even want to start before with the MTT S80, but now it works. Here we get 39 FPS at medium settings 1080p. The 1% and 0.1% lows were at 22.9 and 16.7 FPS, which is more than playable and the game was overall very smooth. Shadow of the Tomb Raider performed terribly to begin with at like 15 FPS at the highest settings 1080p. But weirdly enough, after I changed from DirectX 11 to DirectX 12, the FPS went up to 62 with a 1% low of 37 and a 0.1% low of 29.5 FPS. This is more than playable and very smooth throughout. Resident Evil 3 at the max preset gave us 67.2 FPS with a 1% low of 42 and a 0.1% low of 6.2. So there was some very slight stuttering, but honestly I didn't even notice any real FPS drops. This is much better than MTT S80 where we got 44.7 FPS at low settings. Rocket League was a weird exception where it seemed to perform better on our MTT S80. Here at high settings 1080p we only got 33.7 FPS, but our GPU is only being used like 15% for some reason. There were also some graphical glitches on the screen, as you could see, and previously the MTT S80 got 67.7 FPS, so that's not really great for the Lisuan LX7G100. Now I could be wrong here, but it seems like the Lisuan LX7G100 works the best with DirectX 12 games. Because when launching GTA 5 Legacy at the highest settings 1080p, we only got like 12.1 FPS on average. Additionally, our GPU only had about 25% usage. GTA 5 Legacy is a DirectX 11 game, so I probably should have tried GTA 5 Enhanced. But the exact same thing happened with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and I believe Rocket League is also using DirectX 11. Apparently CS2 uses DirectX 11 or Vulkan, and as expected, the results were not great. We got 27.9 FPS on average, and only about 25% GPU usage. I'll try out Vulkan next time, I think. Finally, I tried Black Myth Wukong, which is a DirectX 12 game, and it performs pretty well. The game is quite demanding, so our FPS really isn't that high, so we only get 30.1 FPS at low settings 1080p, but that's still more than playable, and it's a lot better than MTT S80 which only got 11.9 FPS. We can also see that our GPU is actually being utilized at 80 to 100% usage, so that is working as expected. So have we made the no Intel, AMD or Nvidia gaming PC good at gaming? Well, I would say yes, because we can now actually play many more games with actual decent FPS, and of course without graphical glitches and major stuttering. The Lisuan LX7G100 is honestly so much better than the MTT S80, but its drivers are still not fully optimized. If you're playing DirectX 12 games, it seems to be great, but DirectX 11 games seem to be terribly optimized at the moment. However, I'm sure that a graphics driver update can easily fix this. I think a few people wanted to know how much this PC cost in total, so here it is. These prices include international shipping for some of the components as well. Definitely not worth it for the price, but the gaming performance now with the new graphics card is actually honestly quite good. Thanks for watching.